Namaste. Machana Oiba. Good afternoon. This program is live streamed from the Facebook page of Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation. I'm Radha Paudel, founder of Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation, and I also author and activist. Now I am speaking from Secretariat Office of Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation, based in Kathmandu, Nepal. Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation is a global network for changing the narratives around menstruation from 5 days leading to life cycle approach and from hygiene to dignity. It is an initiative of Radha Podal Foundation since 2019. Now this network has been reached out more than 56 countries all around the globe. Since beginning, we have been organizing various kind of activities, and among of them, this webinar is one of them. And today, we have a speaker from all the way from Kenya. Let's warm welcome to Dr. Jacqueline. Dr. Jacqueline, you are most welcome.
Thank you so much, Radha. It's a pleasure to really have you here on board, and we are here together discussing matters dignified menstruation. It's my greatest, really activity, and it's one of the things that really humbles me. Yeah.
We are equally honored and humbled. Great to have you. And the young, dynamic leader, old leaders who is speaking of for dignified menstruation is not easy. And the people who are living in Global South, no matter whether in Kenya or Nepal, always struggling a lot.
Yes.
Especially for the funding. And no one like to fund. Everyone like to hear the stories, but rarely our story is recognized and our leadership acknowledged. Even though you and me and other many friends are working, which is really big step in a history of development, human rights, and feminism. Okay, dear Dr. Jacqueline, would you introduce yourself to our global audience, please?
Yeah, so thank you once again. It's such a honor to be here, really conversing with everyone, all the stakeholders on dignified menstruation in the entire globe, much as we are coming from the global south. Mosinya Nyaberi Jackie is my name. I come from Kenya. I teach in the School of Public Health of Jomo Kenyatta of Agriculture and Technology. I am an advocate of menstruation hygiene in my country, and this is actually informed based on my story growing up as a young girl in the rural settings of Kenya. And when you get to that age, you are about to menstruate, and you realize that it's one of the phases of life that you start that is really indignifying. I must also say that in addition to working for the School of Public Health at Kenyatta University, I am the founder and executive director of Ayana Health Africa. For that is really championing aspects of hygiene, menstruation hygiene, adolescent health, and women health. That's what part of what I do. It's a very young organization, which is barely 1 year old. I am also working as a board member for pandemic periods, which I'm sure you know. And it's my honor to be in that space where, of course, I bring on board aspects that are related with menstruation in the global spotlight. and therefore rather it's my pleasure to be here on board. But in addition to my introduction, I must also say that I recognize myself as one of the girls from Africa who's lived a very indignified life when it comes to menstruation. A couple of years ago, when I started journeying, as far as leadership is concerned, I felt that somehow I was, held back. I would not be able to speak. I would not be able to do things the way I thought, until I had to share with the world what my story has been like. And I thought the starting point was to start with my own story, which I have published in the social media all over. Growing up in the rural settings of Kenya, and you're brought up with a mother who is really caring and loving, but she doesn't know anything called dignified menstruation. So I get to my 13 year of age, and she brings me two old pieces of blankets, and she says, girl, this is what I would like you to use every month you see your menstruation, and you are supposed to wash it. And of course, that alone, I think, brought to my attention the kind of a family I was brought up that was really brewing with poverty. And it is as a result of that my loving mother really would not afford a sanitary pad. And so the only thing she would afford is the two old pieces of blankets. Sometimes you're using mattresses, sometimes you're using papers, sometimes you're using leaves, and it can never be the same. I remember the days I would miss school. I wouldn't want anyone to know I'm on my menstruation because I knew it would leak out, and such kind of things. And that is why, even as we continue with our discussion today, rather, I wrote a book on 101 authentic leadership lessons. And one of the stories I have indicated in this book as we begin, a very emotional story on who I was many decades ago. Yet we still have girls in the 21st century who are using the old pieces of blankets I used, the mattresses I used, the papers I used. It is still happening in the 21st century, sadly. Thank you, rather.
Thank you very much for sharing such a powerful story, and congratulations for speaking up without knowing the dignified menstruation. I really have a deep respect to your mother, who educate you about the dignity during menstruation and beyond. And I also congratulate you for your different positions in university, in global platform. And one day this global community should hear your story. And your story is not only your story is the story of daughters of Africa. Your story is the story of daughters of Asia. And your story is the story of the girls, daughters all around the globe. And if we don't share our stories, if we are hesitant to share our stories, we cannot educate the people. It is a little bit challenging, sometimes frustrating too. Sometimes we get the responses is like the backlash, but there are the people who really appreciate and who really like to replicate, and they will follow. So this is how we have been doing. And you are from Kenya and I'm from Nepal, and our story is more or less the same.
Thank you.
It's really very emotional. While listening you, I was going back my 43 years back, my childhood, when I decided to commit suicide because I did not like to live as a neglected, powerless, disadvantaged girl because of the menstruation. Let's change the conversation. It is very emotional. Let's talk about the senator, Gloria Oroba.
Yeah.
And she's a role model for all of us. And when I saw in the news, in a Twitter, wow, she took a bold steps to all of us,
Yeah.
for the sake of us.
Yeah.
It was not easy.
Yeah.
I keep following her through different social means, and also follow her interview. I already started to communicate with her, and through this conversation, on behalf of the Global South Coalition, I congratulate to Senator Gloria and
Thank you.
entire Kenyan girls who dare to speak about the menstruation at Parliament,
Yes.
which may be the first time in a history from the Global South.
Yes. Yes.
Let's clap for the sake of her and
Yes,
all Kenyan.
I concur with you rather that really we need to give a standing ovation for Senator Gloria Oroba. And you know, for me, when she went to parliament in the state that she was in, and then immediately I saw the comments that were coming in, you know, most of them sadly were very negative. um for me it was a very emotional moment, and I said, really, if we can still have human beings who are criticizing Senator Gloria Oroba because of how she has decided to become a champion, an advocate, a trailblazer, a change maker, a voice to the voiceless when it comes to menstruation, and yet we could have people really speak so much against her. And you know, she brought me back to positive energy when it didn't hit her. She did not she did not respond in any negative manner. She remained positive, strong, and energetic, and I must really congratulate her. I give her a standing ovation. I wish I would meet her. I would just give her a hug, because in the parliament where she goes, I am not able to go there, and therefore rarely will people even hear the little work I do for my menstruation. But Gloria decides to, you know, she decides that she is going to remind everybody that every time a girl or a woman is menstruating and they do not have the menstruation commodities, that is exactly how they look like.
Yeah,
And still and still it didn't make sense to many, but I want to believe that now that we are back to, probably people are back to their senses, they will remember that their mothers menstruate, their girls menstruate, their wives menstruate, and even some of our women leaders really who did not resonate with her, and they went ahead to criticize her, which I thought, for me, that was lack of leadership. We should all get back, and in one unison, in one voice, we should be able to speak against anything that is really indignifying the life of a woman, the life of a girl when it comes to menstruation. And so entirely in the world, we appreciate Gloria Oroba for what she's been able to do. She has walked to parliament where we have, you know, most parliaments normally have more men. And I say, in terms of leadership, until we have more women in this parliament, until we have more women in the boardrooms, it is not possible for these aspects of menstruation to be supported. And until we have all women, regardless of their class, whether they are rich, they can afford all kinds of menstruation commodities, until we all come together, we become a voice that we will make every other person understand that the aspect of menstruation is very urgent. It is a crisis. Because I want you to know, rather, that there are many situations that you would want really a girl or a woman to be supported. Actually, my advocacy message is we should be able to receive the menstruation commodities just the way the world gives out condoms for use. So if I can access condoms wherever I am in the public, I should also be able to access the menstruation commodities. That is the only way, as a girl, as a woman, I will live a dignified life.
Yeah, I do agree. Absolutely true that the Senator Gloria Oroba did a very bold step, and then I wish we could bring her forward as a leader on behalf of the Global South.
Mhm.
And if I also follow the negative comments in social media, and also in her post, even in the some TikToks,
Yeah.
the videos, but I think they will understand the essence of her step in a parliament.
Yeah.
It was deliberately done. It was deliberately done for the cause, and that
Yes.
is dignified menstruation. When I read the message, oh my goodness, I shared in my Twitter account. I said, uh, the dignified menstruation is now. Is now.
Yes.
We cannot wait. We have already waited for centuries.
For centuries, yeah.
Yeah, and then no one has a right to criticize to her or any of us who are talking about the dignified menstruation.
Mhm.
This is our right. We are human beings.
Yeah.
And who can live without the menstruators? I want to see.
Yeah.
I'm looking for that place. I'm looking for that person who can live
Without,
without the menstruators,
yes,
without
you're
the
right.
people who have a uterus and ovaries.
Yeah.
Everywhere now in Syria, in Turkey, there is an earthquake, and there are girls, mothers, women, trans men, queer. They are everywhere in ICU, in the trains, under the trains, in a university, in a parliament, in a NASA. Everywhere they are there,
Yeah.
and we are neglected for
Actually, I
centuries.
actually I resonate with you, and giving an example of Turkey is the most current and perfect example rather that we can give. I know that every time we are having organizations responding to a disaster such like the earthquake in Turkey, many are the times that we forget about the menstruation commodities as one of the very really basic and very critical commodity that should accompany the healthcare services, the food and what have you. It is neglected. And so in the organization pandemic periods that I am one of the board members, those are some of the things that we are talking about. We are advocating, we are trying to work towards ensuring that really we have global policies that can be able to take care of such situations. We are having earthquakes, or we are having all kinds of disasters, we are having migrations, and you realize that in all those situations, at that point in time, a woman or a girl is menstruating. And if they do not have the right menstruation commodities, then the life of that woman or girl really becomes more difficult. You know, at least it's not easy for them to really bear. Some of them, you know, they will walk long distances. Some of them are sleeping out. Of course, they do not have the basic facilities that they need to have at the moment, even to go really and take care of themselves as far as cleaning themselves is concerned. And I resonate with you that in such situations, in all these pandemics, like even in COVID, during the time of COVID-19, we have heard women and girls who are suffering so much, so that really they are placed in a scenario where they do not understand. So every time we have pandemics, we have situations, we have disasters like we have, one of the commodities really that should be included as a very essential commodity when we are responding to disasters are menstruation commodities.
Yeah, yeah. Even what we have been claiming
Yeah.
through the Global South Coalition, let's change the format of data collection, which is used for the disasters and pandemic.
Yeah.
In the data collection format, it says it says men, women, other, or LGBTQI, something like that. And if we start from the directly by saying mensurators and non-mensurators, it gives the inclusion in mind and in action. If the inclusion process is fast forward, once you say the mensurators, what kind of mensurators? Girl, women, trans men, or queer, and they need the different kinds of needs and priorities.
Yeah.
And if they are in a ICU or any other condition, it automatically gives the ideas about the needs and priorities. Right now, we are so much stereotype, even while making the data collection for before the pre-disasters or pre-pandemics preparation, or during the disasters, even after the disaster. The whole process is not considering the mensurators have the different needs and priorities, which is
Yeah.
really missing globally, not only in Turkey or Kenya or Nepal or somewhere else. Even if you go through the gender equality and social inclusion policies or guidelines or gender responsive guidelines, which is announced or published by the UN organizations, including UN Women, UNFPA, even that kind of things are not included. Just today is a social justice day, and everyone talking about the social justice in the workplace, and talking about the implementation of ILOC 190. That means the decent work. And if there is no included about the sexual harassment or abuses or deprivation from resources and services because of the menstruation, that works will not be the decent work forever. Even though the state may endorse the ILO's C190, that doesn't mean that the work is more inclusive, work is more safety, or is more decent. So we need to be very seriously look at through the data collection process, preparation, and everything throughout the process. We need to change the entire process of the gender equality.
You're
If we
right.
are really looking for the gender equality, we need to change so many things, where we need to incorporate the needs and priorities of the mensurators.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with you. And I just want to echo your sentiments and say that until we have ju- we have justice in terms of inclusion, in terms of involvement of all the stakeholders, until we stop looking at menstruation as a woman issue, and we bring it to our parliament, we bring it to our global spaces of discussion, and we have men on the forefront in terms of advocating for menstruation hygiene and dignified menstruation. Actually, in my view, I think men are the key voices that we are looking for as far as menstruation is concerned. The moment men will take it up as their issue, I can tell you for a fact, without any fear of contradiction, that that will be a deal that will be done. This is because, as we know, not only in the global south, but even on the global north, and I look at it even from the perspective of leadership, we only have about 5% of women, for example, in global leadership. Now, if we have such a small percentage against 95%, then how possible this aspect of menstruation that is projected to be a woman issue, when will it be considered essential? You see, things like HIV, which are touching on both gender, the cancers, we are talking of infectious diseases that are both, you realize that everyone is coming in and is supporting. And I just want to say, really, in the entire globe, that It is an aspect of discrimination. It is an aspect of prejudice and stereotyping, when really we cannot look at how and what we need to do in different governments at the global, no I mean at the global spaces, and even in the global south, so that we can be able to make the discussions around dignified menstruation such a key discussion for all of us, and we pick it up. That is the only way even we can teach the young boys who are growing up that they do not have the right at all, you know, to discriminate or even to laugh at a girl who has just, menstruated on her, and they see that, and that girl does not come to school for the next 1 week, for the 3 days. Or even some of the men who take advantage and they just want to give, for example, half a dollar to a girl, to go and buy a sanitary pad. In the process, the girl is impregnated, the girl is infected with HIV and AIDS. I think for me, there is really need for us to think of if we have to improve other sectors like education, which is really key in all the economies, if we have to improve the sectors of health, if we have to really have better discussions alongside gender equity and equality, then one of the things that we need to bring on board without any discrimination and discuss about it openly, the way Senator Gloria Robert did.
Yeah, very true.
Gloria spoke like millions of men and women in the world, and
Yeah.
people have heard. The word has gone. Now we only need to work and support policies, implement and put investments in place to have accessibility of menstruation commodities.
Yeah, I wanted to know more about the discrimination. You keep referring the discrimination because the menstrual discrimination is an umbrella term. It refers the taboos,
Yeah,
stigma,
yeah,
restriction,
yeah,
signage,
yeah.
abuses, violence,
Mhm.
deprivation from the resources and services
Yeah,
due to the menstruation throughout the life cycle of the menstruators. This is how the Global South Coalition define the menstrual discrimination, and it is
yeah.
very complex,
Mhm.
and it has a multifaceted too, because the context of Kenya, the context of the Ghana is different. I was speaking with the girl from Sierra Leone, and she has a different story. I
Mhm.
also is speaking with the friends from Philippines. She has a different story. So there is a discrimination, but we are not talking about the scope of the discrimination. Could you explain about what kind of discrimination the Kenya has practiced during menstruation and beyond? Can you
Mhm.
explain a little bit?
So, rather, first, I want to acknowledge that this aspect of discrimination is actually a global issue. I know you are aware that currently we have Scotland that just approved the provision of sanitary or menstruation commodities for their women. And I thought that was the starting point for all of us, whether from the global south or global north. It is one of the things that we really needed to take up, and we are like, why? Why is it that Scotland at this time and age, they have picked it up and they have decided this is the way to go? And therefore the aspect of discrimination is a global issue. It's not a Kenyan issue, it's not a global south issue, because if we did take it up, globally, then today we will not be talking about menstruation. And like you have rightly put it, it is one of the aspects of menstruation that is largely assumed, that is largely not talked about. And you have pointed out many of the factors or determinants that really contribute to the discrimination of the same. I can tell you, in some of the religions, for example, if I'm menstruating today, I'm not supposed to go to church. I'm not supposed to meet with the elders. I'm not supposed to speak before people simply because I'm having the flow of blood, really, which is a natural phenomenon which man and woman in on earth have to go through for them to be born. And therefore, for me, I say, if not just discrimination, it is an aspect that still women are being abused as a result of us really ignoring this particular aspect that is very important. Because if we really wanted to say we want to empower women, for example, there is no way we are going to empower women if we have not taken care of their menstruation needs, if we have not dignified them, then the empowerment that we are talking about is not is not well taken care of. It's not it has not been really revamped with the right information, because I can tell you that the moment we are talking about women empowerment, girl empowerment, for me, it starts with menstruation. That is the basis of ensuring that a woman and a girl is empowered. Because in the rural settings, especially those I have worked with and where I come from as a girl and where I have lived, one of the things that can make a girl or a woman not to be empowered, not to continue with school, or not to attend school on a daily basis so that she can competitively perform together with other boys or even other girls whose parents can afford, is the lack of menstruation commodities. It is that particular aspect where she feels there is a stigma that surrounds menstruation. It is that aspect that denies her the self-esteem and the self-confidence that she needs to have even when she's on menstruation. and and of course, when it comes to policies, when it comes to workplaces. And I want you to know that in addition to menstruation commodities, you also know that there are more kind of implications that we suffer when we are menstruating. You're probably having stomach cramps and so on and so forth. Some are probably vomiting and such kind of things. So much as it's a natural phenomenon, it is one of the things that should be dignified the way we dignify a woman when they are giving birth.
Yeah, thank you. While talking about the menstrual commodities or menstrual product, we means the Global South Coalition developed the approach whether these products are dignified menstruation friendly or not.
Mhm.
And for that approach, we called 3P approach. 3P approach means first P applies for the person. That means the menstrual product should be available according to their choice, menstruator's choice. And the second P applied for the planet.
Yeah.
Thus, any none of the menstrual product should burden to the planet. Right now,
Yes.
in the market, the menstrual product is plastic content product mainly, and it is the 5th rank of the plastic content pollution. And it took 200 to 1000 years to decay. So while advocating about the menstrual product, we need to take care the planet simultaneously. And the third P is, we say, packet. That means it should be it should maintain the quality, the standards, and easily available, accessible, locally produced. In that case, we can get in a low price, and that kind of things has to maintain by the government, because otherwise in the market you can find so many types of menstrual product, and everyone claim that their product are the best product. And that is why the government has to develop the indicators and has to develop the systems for the lab test, whether it is free from the any chemicals, free from any plastic contents, and it should not be the burden for the air, for the soil, for the water, for the forest, and everywhere. So that kind of things we need to consider while talking, while advocating about the commodities.
Yeah.
And globally, I am worried. The most of the product contain the chemicals. In research, it says minimum 1 dozens of the chemicals were used, which are very much harmful to the menstruators.
Yeah.
If they use for a longer term, it will cause the cancer, particularly the uterus cancer, cervical cancers, which is really a huge cost for future at the individual and societal and the policy level. That is why, as an advocate, we need to consider that kind of things, whether our product or commodities align with the dignified menstruation friendly or not. And I'm still like to know more, because we received the message from the friends while we share our webinar through our social media. They wanted to know more about the discriminations, taboos, stigma kind of thing, besides the menstrual product. I mean, whether they are eligible to do any social, cultural, religious activities or not, whether they are allowed to go in the kitchen garden or the field to harvest the crops. In few countries in Africa, they are not allowed to touch the water trap, or even they are not allowed to cross the river. In Ghana, I remembered, and in some countries, not allowed to go to the field for harvesting. So our colleagues, our audience, interested to know the very details, what kind of differences between 25 days and the 5 days, like a 24-hour cycle during the menstruation.
So thank you, Rather, once again. So I think, like I have alluded before, I just want to re-emphasize and say that for sure, culture is one of the key discriminator of women when it comes to menstruation. And while we appreciate what culture is in our different cultures where we come from, for me, I stand, or rather, I go by the idea that really there is need for us to be able to do an audit of what our cultures are like. Of course, such kind of cultures, whoever who came up with them, they had reasons which were not very good reasons. But now that we are beyond those kind of decades then, and now we should be able to do an audit of our cultures and get to realize this particular culture is really good and this is really bad. And because this is bad, we want to do away with this kind of a culture. Let I say that menstruation is one of the things that we should actually enjoy if it was given a positive vibe, if it was supported, if it was not discriminated, if it was not indignified the way it is, and all the prejudices and stereotypes that is attached with it. Menstruation is one of the things that as women we should enjoy. As a parent, a man or a woman should enjoy that my girl has just started menstruating, because then it also changes really the attitude of that girl. They get to know, oh, so I'm getting into the next level of life. It's such a great thing to menstruate and to just experience it. But we can only enjoy it, we can only talk about it openly, we can only be in a position to really undo all the discriminations that are attached with them, with regard to culture, with regard to religion, the kind of perception, the attitude, not only the social aspects in terms of the discrimination, but the political aspects of discrimination, the financial aspects of discrimination, the deficiencies of our systems, whether in the government or in the public or even in the private settings, that The same way I would get worried when I see a woman giving birth on the road, and I want to run and assist that woman so that she gives birth safely, the baby is okay, and the woman is okay. It is the same support that we should be able to give the women. It is the same support that we should be able to give the girls. Only when we can do that, then we can change the narrative when it comes to menstruation hygiene and health. Only when we do that, then we can say that now we live a lifestyle of dignified menstruation, because all of us will be positive, and we will be so much interested and concerned to ensure that every girl and woman, they enjoy their 5 or 4 days when menstruation comes.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, thank you. I do agree. And however, in Global South Coalition, while we define dignified menstruation, it is beyond the 5 days of the bleeding, because as you earlier highlighted, menstrual discrimination is a very complex and multifaceted. It is a main factor, determining factor for construction of the power and the patriarchy. Global South Coalition explained that the menstrual discrimination systemically impact throughout the life cycle of the menstruators. Systemically means it goes from womb to toe. As you said earlier, why do people do the sex selective abortion? Why do the global north struggling with the gender pay gap? That kind of things directly and indirectly associated with the menstrual discrimination, where women considered powerless,
Yeah.
inferior, weak, disadvantaged. And at the meantime, menstrual discrimination impact symptomatically. Symptomatically means 5 days of the bleeding. Even in the symptomatic way, we define 5 days of the bleeding, and then perimenopause and menopause. Because these are the visible things, symptomatic things, and invisibly it impacts throughout the life cycle.
Okay.
And there is a direct connection with any kind of gender-based violence. It could be female genital mutilation, child marriage, rape, sexual abuse, or trafficking.
Yeah.
In any kind of the HIV, because it is about the power. Unless and until the menstruators cannot see themselves as a human being, unless and until they don't have a self-esteem to speak about their right, about their body, about their decision, they cannot make the decision for HIV or child marriage or any kind of questions by saying no. They cannot say no. They cannot think other way around. And that is why systemic impact of menstrual discrimination is very serious. And at the meantime, the symptomatic impact, the menstruation, perimenopause, and menopause is equally important, because these are the special conditions. And many of the more than 50% of the menstruators can go through without any moderate to severe symptoms, and rest of them, I would say 20% of the menstruators could experience moderate to severe kinds of symptoms, which is really, really, really difficult to cope by an individual. It's really the state responsibility to educate the people, to make the system available, to treat them according to their needs. So we need to, while talking about the menstrual discrimination or dignified menstruation, we need to more open, more honest. Last year, Global South Coalition did a review of the menstrual movement in global south and global north.
Yeah.
And we identified that most of the menstrual movement focus on the tangible things. That
Yeah.
means the construction of the toilet, installation of the water supply, or free distribution of the menstrual product. And this kind of thing is important element for the dignified menstruation. But this is still not guaranteeing,
Mhm.
still not addressing the systemic and symptomatic impact, because the hygiene doesn't address all kind of discrimination. We need to be very clear and very honest.
Yeah.
Is a young advocate, we is a history maker.
Mhm.
We need to be very open and honest, and we
Yeah.
also need to do some kind of de-learning to ourselves and have to rely on the research, evidence-based advocacy. So we need to go beyond the hygiene, beyond the commodities. And while talking about the commodities, we need to check by ourselves whether it is a dignified menstruation friendly or not, whether
Okay.
we are putting the burden to the planet, or the individual, is a chemicals, that kind of things we need to consider, I think. And we almost done. See, we keep speaking a lot. I wanted to know the challenges you face while doing the campaign in Kenya
Mhm.
and also in Africa region and at the global.
Yeah.
I have already feel that you have gone through so many challenges, and please share with our global audience.
Okay, so rather it's not just me, but I speak on behalf of girls and women really who cannot afford to have such a platform to speak, and I want to confirm to the entire globe that the story I'm giving is not just my story, but it is a story that we share with many women and girls. And therefore really for me having such an opportunity, and now that I can be able to speak about my menstruation experience, I am doing it not for anyone to feel sorry for me, but I am doing it as a sign of speaking on behalf of the voiceless. We have girls and women who cannot afford to come on the open and say, look, this is what I'm going through. I've not been able to go to school, or every month I miss going to school for 5 to 6 days simply because I do not have the menstruation commodities. Or a woman would say, I want to let you know that the mattress and the blankets I bought for the children are actually depleting, not because I never bought, but because I am realizing that as women in this house, we are using mattresses and blankets in place of the menstruation commodities. And therefore, the challenges we are facing as women in my country, for example, like I keep on saying, is that aspect of discrimination. And Gloria Oroba, a well accomplished lady, a senator, if she would be able to face such kind of a very open discrimination, if she would face such kind of critiquing that was done to her, then I want you to know that the problem is bigger than what just Gloria, did, to the public. And many other challenges that girls face is, like I have told you, girls will be married off immediately they get to that age of menstruation, because then they can give birth. They can be forced to, early marriages. They will find themselves, being lured by very small gifts by various perpetrators, simply because they realize the girl is suffering or she's missing on menstruation commodities, and so taking advantage of the situation of that girl. And in the process, the girl becomes pregnant and she's probably HIV positive and she cannot continue school. As if that is not enough, in our spaces of leadership, really, when we cannot be able to have governments that are supporting the agenda of menstruation in terms of taking it up as an issue that the government should be able to take care of, and not only the government but all other stakeholders who are interested in the well-being of a woman. Really, in my view, they should be able to integrate menstruation as one of the key issues. So until we as organizations and stakeholders come on board, from the global south and the global north, in our individual countries, in a continent like mine, then it will not be easier really to overcome the challenges that girls and women are going through. There are times that really menstruation brings like darkness in the life of a girl, so to say. It is not easy, I am telling you. I mean, that having being a menstruator like I am, as educated as we are, there are times that you would have really wished that you would not be menstruating. Yet I can afford the menstruation commodities. So affordability of the menstruation commodities for these girls and women. And I want to give you an example. If we had time, I would pose a photo. When I went to the rural settings to provide menstruation commodities to girls who were about to do their national exam. And so my intention was to meet those girls and, make sure they have the menstruation commodities. They're ready to do their national exam. But that particular day, they came together with their parents, especially the mothers. And in the budget I had was to give a girl, menstruation commodities that would last her for 4 months. And alongside those who were queuing were their mothers. So meaning even that particular sanitary pad you give the girl, it does not become hers alone. It becomes an item that is being shared by every menstruator in a household. So she will share with the mother, she will share with the cousin, she will share with whoever. And if she is young, she can even be taken advantage of. It's like, you are young, use the blankets and give us the menstruation pads so that we use. It is that serious. And many other challenges, like I have indicated. Culture is one thing, having policies is one thing, but enforcing those policies so that we have positive results is another. Having I and really, before we finish, I want to congratulate every other man who has taken it upon themselves to support the agenda of menstruation and dignified menstruation. We have men in Africa. I have seen men in my country who are advocates of menstruation hygiene. So if we could have more of those men, then I am telling you, we are going to change the narrative of menstruation. It will become a thing of the past, and we are going to live a dignified life in a family setup, at a household level. And if I could pose such a question to the entire globe, that, again, these women, that we call our mothers and our wives, they are the women who are expected to make sure that they are there and they give in to their sexual rights. You
Yeah,
can only be able to give in to sexual rights, really, and be able to their conjugal rights, rather, when you are dignified, when you're living a dignified life as far as menstruation is concerned.
yeah. I wanted to bring you back. The one incident happened in Kenya in
Mhm.
2019.
Yeah.
In 2020, in 2004, the Kenya government declared the reduction of the tax, first time in history, global history.
Yeah.
And 2017, if I remember correctly,
Mhm.
please correct me if I spelled wrong date. In 2017, the Kenyan government started to distribute the menstrual pad free at schools. And
Mhm.
in 2019, September, one 14 years young girl, her name is Jacqueline, I think Jacqueline, yeah. She committed the suicide because she was stigmatized by her teacher and the classmates. So what was the takeaway from that story?
Of
I
course.
mean, what did you learn? What did you
um
see on that case?
Thank you, rather. So such a case is one of the cases that I think has led to us introducing menstruation kind of education in the schools, where boys and girls are supposed to be taught on menstruation health and management, and it is now part of the curriculum in Kenya. And I am also aware of advocates in the past who have actually contributed to tax exemption for menstruation commodities. But as we talk still, much as we have that particular policy, really, the exemption should have been 100%, so that when it is 100%, the commodities become more, more affordable to everybody. And somehow, better still, we would have done better by just, ensuring that now we have continuous and consistently we provide the menstruation commodities. I am aware of the provision of the menstruation commodities that is done, but occasionally, and it is done intermittently, and probably it is during the time when these students are sitting for the national exams. Sometimes it's not all of them that will get them, and so you can see that it's a myriad of all issues. And a good example of that particular girl that you have given, obviously there must have been a gap, not just the menstruation commodities. Someone must have discriminated her. She must have felt indignified. She needed to have been supported to understand why she's, flowing blood. One of the things that is really so complicated for you even to think about and to conceptualize. So she lacked the support. And I want you to know that I don't know about Nepal, but I remember when I grew up, other than being given the two blankets, like I told you, no one else took me through lessons and helped me appreciate the time when I started menstruating, or accept it and really boldly take it as one of the best things that has ever happened in
Okay.
my life. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, we are very close to time. Mm, when that case was happened in Kenya, we were closely follow the news, and it was really, really sad
Sad.
story.
Mhm.
And we means Global South Coalition, Sri, and took as a very big lesson learned that we need to go beyond the hygiene, beyond the
You're
product,
right. Mhm.
unless and until we don't dismantle the different kinds of menstrual discrimination. That
Yeah.
could be taboo, that could be stigma, shyness,
Mhm. Mhm.
restriction, abuses, or violence, or
Mhm.
deprivation from resources or services. We cannot build the self-esteem. We cannot build their individual agency as well as the collective agency, and which is very, very important for their empowerment. And that is why we conducted one research based on that story, where we are missing what kind of gaps we have been making in the
Mhm.
menstrual movement at the global south and global north. That is why we did that global map of the menstrual movement, because we keep talking. If we keep talking about the product, we are not allowing, we are so much confined with the material, with the tangible things,
Mhm.
giving something, taking something, take a photographs,
Mhm.
post it over the social media, and no one talk about the different
Mental
kinds of
health support.
discrimination.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
discrimination is not, is a very difficult task. It is like a very compacted, like a cemented house. The houses we see in Turkey were destroyed by the earthquake, but the discrimination, the attitude, the practices, the fear, the justification behind the menstrual discrimination, it takes so long time to dismantle and reconstruct. And if we able to dismantle and reconstruct, and we can change the power relation, and we can smash the patriarchy, And this is how we are promised. And we also had a international 3 days international workshop, and we commemorate her, and then we promise that we will do the advocacy around dignified menstruation without any compromises, because she's not only the daughter of the Kenya, she's the daughter of the global south, and she's daughter of the this planet, and she's equally valuable for all of us. This is how we promise, and now we are very close. Thank you very much for the conversation. We can go hours and hours, because we all are, we both coming from the traumatic experience, childhood experience. We are not the advocate because we have a funding, because we have the job, because we have a passion and commitment, we have a pain, we have a suffering, and then we see that kind of pain and suffering everywhere all around the globe. This is why we are talking, speaking, advocating, fighting, rebelling. We are everything. And then we keep doing this kind of webinars. That is why we encourage each of you who are following us right now, keep following us through the social media. Next month, we'll be speaking in CSW 67 by March 6th, and that is all about, that will all about giant puppet show for dignified menstruation, and also speaking on March 8th in CSW 67. This will be about dignified menstruation and technology matters. And in the same day, March 8th, we'll be speaking, we'll have a book talk program where the friends from all around the globe will talk about the book. It's called On Holy Blood, and it's all about the dignified menstruation again. And in March 20th, we'll be speaking about menstruation, leave, menopause leave, and human rights. So friends, keep follow us. And do you have a one sentence message, one word or one sentence to the global committee, and we will say goodbye?
Yeah, so I just want to say to all of us that really there is need for us to dignify menstruation if we have to dignify our mothers, our wives, our daughters of this planet. The only best thing that we can do is to all of us become a voice to this narrative of dignified menstruation. Let us support where we can in terms of policies, in terms of undoing the discrimination that has been there. And all of us who are listening me today, if we can afford to say kudos and bravo to Gloria or Roba, I think that will be the best thing that we can do to the world. So let's be champions. I want to wish all of us very the best. We have to keep on speaking. If we stop speaking, then it means that we are not doing it for the daughter of this planet. Thank you.
Yes, we are here for dignified menstruation. Have a good day. Thank you.